Hey, what's up guys, it's Graphic Phoenix back with another video today, and today we're finally doing a how to build your own custom vivarium. This is going to be my first build without a waterfall, so I hope you guys enjoy and I hope you can learn something from this video. As you can see by this vivarium here, I like to make very multi-dimensional and have a lot of features for both mounting plants as well as having options for the frogs to hide in, as well as functionality and growth thoughts in mind for the plants that I'm placing. So with that being said, I hope you guys stick around and we can finally begin to build a custom vivarium. So now that I've shown you a bit of the vivarium that I had previously built, I'm going to go over some of the supplies. As you can see in front of me, we got everything pretty much that we're going to need in here. Let's get started. So now that we're all focused up on the tank, I'm going to slowly pull things out and list them all. Then I'm going to have an overall shot with all of the supplies you'll need to make your custom vivarium. Firstly, you're going to need some dirt. Now this is substrate, this is AGB kind of modified mix. There is another video of me making another tank, and you can check this out there. And I make my own stuff. This is brought to you by Jungle Jewel Exotics here in Calgary, Alberta, and they make a great product. I do use their stuff for a lot of my things. This is very functional, and for those of you that don't want to make your own, go buy some and you will not be disappointed. Next up, you're going to need some silicone and a caulking gun. Now this is GE Silicone 2 Brown. So after doing some research, GE Silicone 2 is not the best for your frogs and amphibians. There is said to be some toxins in there. I obviously haven't noticed any mal signs of using it yet. Now, GE Silicone 1 is safe. There's no toxins or anything like that. And the caulk gun just makes it so much easier to actually apply to the tank. So in this build, I'm not going to be building an egg crate base, but this is basically light diffuser from Rona, Lowe's, anywhere, any hardware store near you. You can find this stuff. It comes in a 4x2 sheet. Really easy to cut, really easy to make custom. You basically want to make this your base and support it with some PVC pipe. I did that in the other one. I supported it with some PVC and basically made my bottom, false bottom out of this stuff here. Now for that light diffuser, or for really any application, this is Weed Guard. You can use either this stuff or the Zoomed, or is it Zilla? I don't know, Zilla or Zoomed mesh for the bottom of your terrarium. So they do sell it in most pet stores. You'd be very easy to find it. It's like $3 for a 12x12 area. This is Weed Guard that you use in gardening, and this costed, for the giant roll, I think somewhere around $10 to $12. So this is the separatory used to separate whatever, whether it be that false bottom that I showed you, the egg crate, or the Hydro Balls, which I'm using in this build. Speaking of Hydro Balls, here's a big bag of them. Now this is leca, or clay pebbles, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. It's basically just expanded clay, and it allows for proper drainage in your substrate layer so your substrate doesn't remain absolutely soaked. This stuff is kind of like a brand that I actually found on Amazon, and it was like $10 or $14 or something for this 10 kilogram bag, or maybe it's a 5 kilogram bag, I'm not sure. And that's a good deal. I mean, the little like Zoomed ones we sell at our store are like $14 for like 2 kilograms maybe, somewhere around there, or 1 kilogram even, I'm not sure. This stuff is what you're going to want to use. This is what several people use. You don't have to use it, but if you want to basically imitate what I'm using on this build, you're going to have to use this stuff. Next on the list is leaf litter. Again, this is provided by Jungle Jewel. I'll leave a link down below. You guys can go check them out. This is leaf litter. So you basically cover the bottom of the tank with this, and it's just a place for the frogs to retreat to if they ever feel threatened or they just want to hide. This is basically background cover. This is essentially coconut husk, fir bark, sphagnum moss, and if you can find it, you can mix in tree fern as well. It makes for a great background medium, so you'll see exactly how I'm using it later on in the video. There is some black aquarium silicone in here. The reason for that, as I'll show you later, is because I actually sealed the bottom of this tank just to make sure that there'd be no cracks or leaks or anything like that. Last but not least, we got the things that you're going to want to put in here. This is just an example of cork bark. Obviously, I'm going to be using a hell of a lot more than just this tiny piece of cork bark. I have a lot of driftwood, Malaysian driftwood. That works very well for dart frog builds, or vivarium builds in general. Cork bark works fantastically as well, so if you ever want to, you can certainly use this, and this will grow a lot of plants. It works great for waterfalls. So enough blabbling about supplies. I know I went on long enough. Alrighty, we are here with kind of an overall shot of what you're going to need. This is the substrate, the leaf litter, the background mix. As you can see, there's some coconut in there, there's some fir bark, there's some sphagnum. It's all mixed up in there. That is the cork. This is the GE Silicone 2 Brown. Now, I read this is fine, but there are a couple threads out there that say it's not. If you want to use GE Silicone 1, that is 100% safe, so you can certainly use that. The caulk gun itself. The leca pebbles. As you can see, they're just basically expanded clay pebbles. This is the weed guard right here. And last but not least, I won't be using it in this build, but in maybe one of my future builds, I'll show you how to use the egg crate. Of course, things that I didn't list are obviously the tank that you're going to want, as well as you need some creativity and plenty of patience. Those two things are hard to come by, and unfortunately they don't sell them in stores, but everybody, your first build will not be your best build. Just got to stick with it and continue innovating new ideas and experimenting on your builds. The last thing is plants. You guys are going to want to find your plants first, know how they grow, know where they grow. Make sure your plants are right for your vivarium. Now, obviously, this is something like the carnivorous plant over there that is already exceeding probably 8 inches. Is probably not good for an 18-inch tall build, as well as the orchid. You might not want to do that. Some of the things that would be great would be some like the red nerve plant and things like that, but I'm not going to cover that right now. I'm going to make another video covering vivarium plants, so stay tuned for that, and let's start this build. But you can see, as I mentioned in the supply list, I did reseal the whole bottom part of this tank just to be safe. Typically, these are completely watertight, but better safe than sorry, especially when you're talking of a build that could last you a very, very long time. Now, this is where the creative part comes in. These are all my pieces of driftwood that I have available to make tanks, and obviously, some of you will go to the store and pick out exactly what piece you're going to want and how you're going to build it into your design. I do not have that liberty. If I see a really nice piece of driftwood, typically I'll buy it. You're going to want to set your tank up down like this. Now, I'm sorry for that painful reflection, but this is how you're going to want to lay your tank. What you're going to want to do is place all of the background items into the background right now and kind of visualize it standing up like it would be normally, just to see how the whole piece would come together. This is not a process you should rush. This could take minutes, it could take hours, it could take days. Don't rush yourself. You want to have a nice dart frog tank at the end of this. I'm going to start messing around, placing some of the driftwood in here, kind of visualizing how I want the tank to feel at the very end of the build. So I just have to leave enough space for substrate at the back there. I basically kind of set out the tank and how it's going to look. You guys aren't exactly on the best angle to see this. So I picked you up here and you can kind of see how this is going to look. Basically, my thought is in these tanks up here, they have kind of, that's all spray foam under there. That's not actually like wood or anything. They have the kind of 3D walls, which I plan to do with this. Maybe incorporate some of the cork bark into there. This is basically how it's looking from the sides. You can kind of see it gives you a very spacious area. I have a planter there just in case I want to plant some I don't know what, some plants, and then essentially this whole log is basically growing area. You can see from up top there, we'll have foam covering most of this. The foam will come out and bulk around this. It will foam into there. I might make like a ledge coming up from there, but you can get the general gist of it. I also want to leave plenty of floor space because I do have some ground orchids or terrestrial orchids coming in, and I want to incorporate that into this build. So being the idiot that I am, I totally forgot to have the actual foam in the supplies list, and this is what I'm using. This is called Aquascape Pond and Waterfall Foam Sealant. It's black, as you can tell from there. This one's obviously been used, and this is what I choose to use with my builds because the Great Stuff yellow foam just looks gross to me. You really have to make sure you cover all of it, and of course I do pay attention to make sure I cover all of this. But if it's your first time and you happen to miss a spot, of course you can always go back and fix it. This is what I use, and it also makes some nice rock looking features if you really want to incorporate that into the setup as well. It works perfectly for that. Now there is a Great Stuff version of this. I know in Calgary here it's sold at Home Hardware only, and that's the only place you can find it, but it's basically the same. This stuff cost me at work about $19 for the can. This one can should be able to do your whole tank. Now this is for a 12 by 12 by 18, but the Great Stuff foam, the black version, it's a smaller can, like it's just a standard size can. This is actually like a huge can. That stuff basically costs like $8 or $9 a can, so if you're gonna do that, I'd get at least two cans. If you're doing all three walls, maybe get three just to be safe. You might use only two, but better safe than sorry, right? Alright, so for those of you that have not been either foaming or anything a tank before, take it slow. You want to make sure you cover every square inch of where you want to get right away. It does come out really fast, so you got to be wary of that as well. And you just got to be smart. I would preferably start from the bottom and then go towards the top, just because this stuff is really sticky, and you want to make sure that it has proper time to dry, which is anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Let's get started. Make sure that you're not wearing any clothes that you absolutely love, because this stuff is very sticky. It's easy to make a mistake, and once it's on your clothes, good luck getting it off. Alrighty, and there we have it. This is the foaming that I've done so far. As you guys could tell, I got as best as I could under the log. I made a little bit of like a connection there. I foamed the whole back part and then built it up, and then around the cup here, down the side of the cup just to kind of blend it in a little bit. And you can see under the log as well. So that's all the foaming for tonight. Here we are, day 2 of the build. As you can see, compared to the previous clip, the foam has gone absolutely insane. You can see how much it's built up there. Doubled, if not like tripled in size. And now I'm going to begin the carving process. I do have several knives here. This is a pocket knife, and then 2 serrated knives. These work very well. If you're a kid and or have never used a knife before, which I hope most people of any age really has used a knife, maybe talk to your parents about it just to be safe. But one thing when you're foaming, when you're cutting the foam, you want to cut every last little inch. You want there to be none of this sleek, beautiful looking stuff here. While this stuff is much easier to silicone, the silicone doesn't adhere to it quite as well. So you want to carve into the foam, get all the details and look that you're really looking for established, so then you can cover it up with silicone. I'm not going to show you the whole process of carving because this will probably take me an hour, if not 2. So I'm just going to leave it here and be back when we come back to the completely carved tank. We'll take off a little bit here. See? That's the resulting piece of foam. And that part there is the foam. That's what you want the whole tank to look like. Now, pro tip, have a garbage near you at all times because this gets disastrous. There will be foam sticking to you, there'll be foam sticking to everything around you. So be prepared, guys, have fun, make it look good, and we'll come back when I'm done with my carving so you can see exactly what I've done. Alrighty, and here we are. This is the finished carving of the very background. Actually, that's not true. It is not the finished carving because what I'm actually going to do is add a little bit more spray foam to this area right here so I can have a bit of like a shelf around the cup. I think that would look kind of cool, so that's what I'm going to do. I will foam that afterwards. I'm just giving you guys a general idea. There'll be one film canister that goes there, another one you can see up there, and then that's pretty much it. You guys can see that it's looking real nice. It's coming together. I'm happy with it so far. Alright guys, now we're back on day 3 or 4 of the build, I'm not really sure. And what I'm going to be doing today is doing the foaming for the one side. Alrighty, now we just gotta let it sit there like so. I'm just going for a little bit of a branched out effect here. It's gonna connect with the base all the way back there and hopefully look nice when it's all done. So since the last update you guys have seen, I actually did both sides. I know you can't see this side, but you saw me foam that earlier. I did this side as well, and now that we're back, I am actually gonna show you the whole process of carving this, just because I didn't do this for the background. So I'll show you this side and how I do it, and if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments section and we'll get started. So that's really all it takes. You saw it go from pretty much a blob of foam into more of a branch looking kind of thing. More of like a walking branch than it was anything else. And I think it turned out pretty well. This is just the kind of thing that you have to do. You just got to experiment, make what you think you might like, and go with it. You just got to bite the bullet. Obviously your first tank is not going to be your best. So what we're going to need, like I said in the beginning, silicone, caulking gun. These are just like latex gloves. You can buy them at anywhere really. Walmart, any like CVS if you're in the States, or any pharmacy you can find them. And then this is basically background mix. I have some crushed tree fern in here because that stuff is really hard to find in Canada, but I managed to scoop some up. And there's some Repti chips in there, there's some sphagnum moss, and there is some coconut coir in there as well. I'm not going to show you the whole process because it does take quite a long time, and I mean you want to do it really quickly, but I'm not exactly at the best angle to do what you guys are seeing, so I'm going to set you guys up, show you exactly how I do it. This is actually really easy, but it does make a hell of a mess, so keep that in mind when you're doing this. Essentially what you're going to do is make sure you have it as clear as you possibly can get it, and you're going to add so much silicone, like a ton of silicone. You might not believe me, but just watch. And then all you're going to do is basically grab your gloved hand and essentially just work it into all the nooks and crannies that you may or may not have missed. And I might have almost overdone it on the silicone. And the more you work it in, the more air bubbles you'll fill in the actual background itself. And essentially the more silicone you'll use. And of course, after you silicone and you add the first layer of background, you'll see it in the video, but you're basically going to want to shake out the whole thing and just make sure that everything is stuck. And what hasn't stuck, you can go back and retouch. It's not a big deal if you happen to miss a spot, or when you're adding, like the stuff doesn't stick very well. That's totally fine. You don't really need to worry too much about it. And then just take off your glove, make sure your mix is ready to go, and throw it on there, basically. You use a lot of mix, don't worry. You will get most of this back. You gotta keep in mind that this is just like the initial base. Sorry, I bumped you guys there. But you also want to make sure it's nice and pressed in there. That basically wraps up the how to do your background. The tank is done. I'll show you an overview of it in just a minute. And what we're going to be doing now is adding the clay pebbles, or the leca pellets. These are leca, whatever you want to call it. Expanded clay, essentially. And this is Jungle Jewel's soil substrate. So that probably won't do this whole tank, so I will be making up my own. But if you want to see exactly how I make it up, you can go check out the video of me setting up the baby dart frog tank in another video, and that shows you exactly how to do it. I'll link it probably up there, and you guys can go check it out. So this is what the tank is looking like right now. She is looking great. I didn't film any of the side parts of this tank, meaning like over there or on this side as well. I didn't film doing that because it's literally the exact same. You cover it in silicone and then push the dirt into it. It's nothing different, so I figured I'd save that part of the video and be able to allocate that time to something else. So a quick note on the clay pebbles. Basically what this does is allow for a drainage layer. This allows the water to drip out of the soil substrate and drip into here so it does not become stagnant and gross. You do want a couple inches of these clay pebbles just to make sure that there's good separation between the dirt and the water. Keep that in mind when planting and what plants you're going to grow. You do want a fairly high soil level, so adjust the amount of clay pebbles accordingly. That will help you out. So you'll see exactly how I do it on this tank. Before we add them to the tank, we do need to wash them off just to get any like grit or gross dust off it. So I'm gonna go do that, and I don't think you guys need to see that. Just get a strainer and run water through it. This is basically something that you guys might want to make yourselves. Obviously, I did it myself. This is just an old, like, pharmacy pill bottle container, one of the taller ones, as opposed to something like a film canister. So basically what I did was I broke out the bottom and then a little window here. I don't know how well you can see that. There you go. I broke out the window there, and then in the lid, I basically just drilled a hole enough for one of the drainage lines to be able to go down. So basically my reasoning for adding that little pill container is essentially for draining the drainage layer. Basically what it does is allows you to get a non-hydroball blocked pathway towards the end or bottom of your tank, and allows you to drain it via siphon when it gets full. So that is some tip that you won't necessarily hear in everything else. I certainly use it. For the Aranatomea reticulata, I use it. And then in here, I basically have a false bottom rather than the hydro balls. And essentially, I just poked a hole right here to where the drainage line can go down and suck out that water. Because you can see the water level is about halfway full. So in another maybe 2 weeks to a month, I'll have to drain it. And that is completely natural for tanks. So keep that in mind. Whether you include it or not is up to you, but I strongly recommend it. It just helps and makes things easier. Alright, the next thing we need to add is the substrate barrier, which is going to be this bit of weed cloth that I will cut 2 squares out of just to make it double thick and place in the bottoms. I don't need to show you how I'm cutting it, it's just scissors. Alright guys, so there is the drainage layer in place and ready to prevent soil from draining through. So now what we're going to do is add that jungle jewel mix and basically like fill up the bottom of the tank. Alright guys, so this is what I have in there right now. And that concludes the video. The substrate was the final part in this before planting, as well as adding the leaf litter and isopods and the springtails that will require this to be a living vivarium. So the planting of this tank and the kind of finishing touches will be made on another video. This was kind of the base, how to build your own vivarium, and or custom tank, custom background, whatever you want to call it. So I'll be making the planting and a like vivarium safe plants video at another time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this like 30-minute plus video. It has taken me hours to edit and it finally is come true. Look at that thing. It looks beautiful. I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And for those of you that were asking for this video, I really hope this helped you build your own vivarium. I really want to thank you guys for watching. If you made it to the very end of this video, I want you to leave the word dart frogs in the comment section down below. That lets me know that you made it to the very end of this video and you're a true supporter. You are a trooper. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a like if you did in fact like it. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, leave that along with the word dart frog in the comments down below. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. May Madness is upon us. Have a good one, guys.